Mark Skaar with Jeff Angell from Walking Papers to talk about WP2. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks. Happy to be here, Mark.
And how long did it take to come up with the title WP2?
Well, sometimes, you got to choose your battles, so it seemed to work out. That's just what we were calling it. And then everyone had different ideas, and we were like, let's just go with this thing so we don't have to argue about it.
For those that don't know, probably most people don't know that this record actually existed before the Staticland record.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is true. Yeah, the Staticland was thrown together. I had to keep busy, had to have something going on, and I've been waiting for this record to come out. And then when I found out it was going to be delayed, I was like, all right, let's go to Nashville and do something.
Mm-hmm. So this record was gestating for a few years, and about 2014? Is that right? That's probably about when this was recorded?
Yeah, 2015 is about, we might have done a couple songs in 2014, but right at the beginning of 2015.
13 songs on this one, a good value for the money, and an early contender, in my opinion, for Album of the Year.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. People seem to really be liking it. I'm excited about that.
It was just released last Friday, the 19th, and I'm glad to hear that the reviews are coming in well and the press is liking it.
Yeah, likewise. It's pretty good to wake up in the morning. I'll get my East Coast press, and then if it's a good review, I'm like, hey, that's not a bad way to start your day off.
Right, exactly. So I've only had a chance to listen a couple times, but my first impression was not that there was anything bad with the first half of the record, but the second half, for some reason, really hit me good. And so I want to ask you about 3 songs. Let's start with Before You Arrived, one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun song for me. Sometimes with these songs, I have a backstory going on in these songs that doesn't always make it to the songs. I'll write 5 pages of lyrics to put the 1 page in there, and then I was reading all these Jim Thompson novels. I don't know if you know who he is, but he wrote The Grifters and Bad Boys. He's kind of like a crime noir kind of guy.
Okay.
Pulp noir, and I liked the idea of in the song maybe the guy's like a private investigator or something, and then there's there's always the dame that walks in on the guy, and I got started with that line of she asked to come in as she was walking through the door, and I always just thought that was a good idea for a song. That's what the imagery that it painted in my mind. Then this poor guy, maybe he's the PI that fell for the damsel, and then maybe she had a plan. So I thought it was but no one else probably gets that out of the song, but I do for sure.
You should. You wrote it.
Yeah, I have a whole little movie going on for that song.
Right. That's one theme throughout both records to me is, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, cinematic.
Yeah, I couldn't ask for a better compliment.
I Know You're Lying, probably my favorite song on the record.
Really?
Yeah.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's just got that thing.
But that's one of the things that's been the best gift out of me working with Barrett is that songs that I would dismiss are songs that that's definitely a song that I wrote and demoed. And on the first album, Already Dead and The Butcher, I've had Already Dead and The Butcher for 10 years, and I was never thought they deserved to go on an album. And then Barrett's like, what are you talking about? Those are the best ones. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll put them on there. And then later on, I find out that those seem to be the ones most people gravitate towards. And that's what I Know You're Lying's the same thing. To me, it was, it's got a pop kind of vibe to it.
Yep.
A little sugary, so I might have been like, oh, that's too sugary. People won't think I'm dark and scary if I put that out. So he twists my arm, and he's like, no, that one's really good. And then usually, he's seeing something that I can't, and then later on I come around to it. So it's kind of nice to have that guy pushing for those things.
No, it's tasty, and it's got hooks galore, and I think that particular song could really do something.
Oh, thank you very much. I hope so.
Right in Front of Me, which closes the record, another favorite.
Yeah, I like that one too. I like the idea of the. Do you see what's going on in the song there, where the guy's actually in someone else? He's in the mind of someone else, and he's like behind their eyeball and all that kind of on a little boat back there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a good thing. That one too came together really quick. That was actually one that Duff's a busy guy,
yep.
But he did show up to work on songs with me one day out of like 19. when he got there, we came up with that one pretty quick. Like,
how many songs was he really involved with you, would you say?
Well, he gets involved in a different way. When you start playing and you're in the room and everybody's playing,
mm-hmm.
he's kind of pretty spontaneous. His contributions are spontaneous, and so he does. But he's not like a let's go sit at the piano today and put in 8 hours and see what happens. He's more like let's rock and then while you're rocking, you fall across things and. So, definitely he had on the first record he joined after the record was already recorded and written, and then he added bass to the record. And on this record, he was definitely a part, and even some of the songs were kind of inspired off of jams that, he had initiated or that we played together, so he's definitely a bigger part of this record than the last record. And he just works in a different way. I go down to the lab, and shut the world off and hide, and he's more like stumbles into the room, and then we all picks up the thing and things just start kind of happening. So it's cool to where if I have a song that's really kind of polished in there and then he kind of comes in and just jams over the top of it, might take it you might get a better bridge out of it or a better turnaround or something like that, and that's kind of how he works.
Talking with Jeff Angell
with my band. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. We're talking with Jeff Angell from Walking Papers about WP2. The first taste we got, Jeff, was Death on the Lips. That's the first thing people heard off of this record.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite.
Okay. Please elaborate.
I don't know. I mean, I think now a few people have asked me questions about the record, and it had some time to sit there. And I think that the record is about. There's a lot of temptation in the record and a lot of also some redemption. So I think, through the years we did some touring and stuff like this, and, you might be away from home for 6 weeks and then you might have 4 days off in a 24-hour city somewhere. And, I could definitely see all my bad ideas inviting me out to kill the time. And, when you're riding a high of playing all these shows and doing all this, guys can be, wanting to keep that going on the days off and stuff like that. So I could definitely feel like, a reoccurring thing was like outside the cities waiting, and so I got that Somebody Else and Death on the Lips were kind of like a lyrical burst. And then some of those themes fell into other parts of other songs too. And it seemed to be like the reoccurring theme was like, hearing the voices calling you to do something, to get out there and maybe return to some bad habits. And, and I avoided that, I didn't answer those calls. And I think I kind of worked them out through the songs. I think the songs kind of helped me, gave me something to do with that invitation and turn it into something positive.
Somewhat therapeutic, perhaps.
Yeah, music is so therapeutic.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I've said this before on our chats, but Jeff, to me, is an incredible storyteller, and it's rare these days that we have storytellers. We need people like you.
Oh, thank you. It's everyone likes to feel needed.
For sure. And it's I'm just amazed by where you take the songs, and you mentioned the one song before you arrived, you had 5 pages of lyrics. That just blows my mind. Are all songs kind of similar, where you kind of whittle down? I imagine you take different approaches depending on how you're feeling.
Yeah, some songs I'll get it all in there. 2 tickets in a room, or This Is How It Ends, and Death on the Lips, or Red and the White. Those. That's what I'm trying to achieve, when I can get the whole, develop a character and have like a beginning, the middle, and an end. But you can't always do that in a couple verses, so, but then I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, because other people can take it where they want to, But for me, I always finish those thoughts in my own journals or whatever when I'm writing the songs. And what's funny is like sometimes those songs will become another song. But I don't know, I thought about maybe one day I'll actually connect the songs or something, you know, maybe do a show and talk about it and like how this song actually, you know, they might even jump from one band to another band and it's still the same story or the same character in that song. You know, I thought but then maybe I'd ruin it by not letting people do what they want with the songs, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But who wants a song? You know, 5, 6 verses is just too much. You know, we got to keep it to at least 3, 4 if you're really going for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when we were talking about the Staticland record, you were talking about your dream journal.
Yeah. I got a dream journal, I got a tour diary, and then I got my songwriting books. They're actually, I'm kind of religious about writing them down versus doing it in a computer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'll go to a computer and put the things into the computer maybe to edit it or to move it around so where it's time to sing it to just make sure it's clear and cohesive. But I think that there's a lot of ideas that initial inspiration is really good, but then people go through periods of questioning what they're writing, and then it's so easy to delete it on a computer, and then later on, if you read through things that you wrote down, you'll actually find that your first inclination and your first inspiration, that there's usually something in there that should probably remain.
I don't want to jinx you, but do you ever have writer's block, and if so, what do you do to combat that?
I think that I've had periods of writer's block, but I think, like, I'm a sober guy too. And I think that eventually you can kind of get yourself to a point to where you're like, I can get I can kind of allow my mind to go where it would go when I was high. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I know what that feels like, and I can kind of psych myself into that. So I don't really need to go and get high anymore. And the same thing's true with songwriting. It's like writer's block. It's all you're psyching yourself out. Or, you know, there's all these tricks. If a person's on one thing, you know, like when you have something on the tip of your tongue and you're trying to say it, to have an epiphany, what you got to do is stop trying so hard. You know, you got to think about something else. Give yourself a break. So I think writer's block, it's like if you're not writing your novel, then maybe you need to, you know, jump over to some poetry or write a letter to a friend or something like that. And then you'll find that you'll get your juices flowing again, and then you can get right back to whatever. So I just don't try to sit down and go, here, we're going to finish this song today. It's more like I'm just spilling out ideas, and then later on it's like being a librarian and going and collecting those ideas and putting them into a song, you know.
We're talking with Jeff Angell from Walking Papers. Since this record's been sitting for a long time, did you release it as it was as you left it, or did you go back in and tweak some things?
No, it's just, well, they remastered it, but I don't hear so well, so I just let Ben and Barrett do that. I have a Marshall JMT 50 watt in my ears at all times.
I think the production is less raw than the first record, but that said, it's got a cohesion. You can tell it's the same guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the production is elevated, but I think that the band is raw. Like, we're more, you know, the first record was me and Barrett, and then those guys added their parts. Where this record, we all kind of played together. So, like, the performances are more raw on this. But then the production is more polished. So I think that's kind of a really cool juxtaposition to get on a record.
For sure. And I think beforehand, Jeff, you did like a GoFundMe for this. Is that right?
No, it's a pledge thing.
There you go.
But it wasn't to create funds. It was more to like just ramp up the demand by throwing in some special things.
Sure.
But it wasn't like the record was already made. We paid for that out of pocket a long time ago.
Okay.
Which was kind of funny because when I was doing all that touring and then we came home and we put all this stuff into the record, and I was like, oh, we'll just put the money there for a minute because we'll get it right back when the record comes out. And then when it didn't come out for a while. I was like, I want my money back.
Ugh.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someday.
Right. How about touring this year? What's that looking like?
There's some opportunities and some people talking right now, and there's a few different things coming down the pipeline, and we're trying to figure out what that looks like. I'm not sure who's touring or what we're doing, but I definitely want to get my songs out there and play them for the people. But everybody's kind of, pulled in 7 different directions, so we'll kind of see what that looks like. But, we might take something different out on the road. We've been doing some different stuff with horn players and, some different guitar players and upright bass, stuff and all sorts of different things. So it's like we might find a way to deliver the songs to people to give them a good night of entertainment, but it might not be what they're expecting. But, hey, if you give them what they're expecting, why even come to the show? You already know what you're going to get.
Yeah, some cool detours. I'd look forward to that.
Yeah, I like it. Keeps me interested.
Yeah. And I know you've always got a lot of songs in your coffers.
Yeah, I got a few, but it's funny, though, is I kind of took this last 6 months or so kind of off. I was like, needed to rotate the crops is what I'm calling it. But there has been a little bit of like, I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not writing songs. But so what I did is I remodeled my house. Had to do something with all that energy. So, but I was kind of like cool with it. To be honest, my lady there deserved. She's been supporting me doing this rock and roll thing for a long time, and she holds down the fort when I'm off prancing around on stages. So I figured it was time to come back and maybe invest some energy into our life together. And so we remodeled our house and got all cozy there. And so I'm probably geared up to start putting some stuff back into songs again here.
Awesome. Well, you've been pretty prolific over the last decade with 4 different projects, essentially.
Yeah, I wish I could keep them all in one house, but, we got to keep moving, I guess. We're covering, like when the song there, we got to cover our tracks.
Fair enough. We'll leave it there. Jeff, thank you so much for your time, as always, and go out and buy WP2. It's, like I said, it's an early contender for Album of the Year for sure.
Thank you so much.
For Jeff Angell, I'm Mark Skaar.